Hello, viewers of the Spell, and welcome to the first part of what I hope will be a series, which will be What If Midoriya Was a Jedi? Now, I've seen this idea played around with, haven't really seen a full series, though. And who knows, I didn't put this in the last video of what ifs did people want to see, but I have been thinking about doing Star Wars what ifs. And plus, I've been watching some Star Wars YouTube, and yeah, turns out the Force can be used for a lot more than you think. So, I think this will definitely be interesting. I also say that it can be used for a lot more than you think, but I'm not even going to really be able to get into a lot of them. But other than that, I do hope you can enjoy. This what if starts out when Midori was 7. It had been a few years since he had gotten diagnosed with being quirkless. He was in the woods crying. Bakugo had been bullying him. He started wondering why. Why did he have to be born like this? As he walked through, he felt like these woods had something in there for him. It was raining. He thought at least the rain would keep people from noticing the tears. As he stumbled upon a large rock, as he approached it, he slumped up against it, where it jutted out, providing him shelter. As he noticed this rock was metal, he would push against it and a panel would come off. He walked in and saw a skeleton. He panicked for a second, but thought, probably someone's prank. As he noticed a square cube the man held, he felt a tingle in the back of his mind, as if something called out to him. He would walk up and pick it up, with him focusing on it. The cube would begin to morph, the corners turning and him dropping it, as a projection would come out of it, with the message saying, "Hello, I do not know who you are, nor where I am. Seem to be the last survivor of this Jedi ship. Our mission was to secure artifacts to a Jedi temple on the Outer Rim, but the clone troopers attacked us during this process. We managed to take out the ones on the ship, but we could feel our comrades dying. I do not know if any Jedi survived. In fact, as I record this, I know I will not. Our ship had taken damage and we had crashed here. I only hope, if the Force wills it, this message will find a Force sensitive, and that all the knowledge we hold about the Jedi Order will not be lost forever. There are dangerous artifacts, however, but I am not sure if they are secure. They're in the part of the ship that particularly got damaged." He coughed, as it looked like there was discoloration on his hand. Maybe blood? As he said, "If you're watching this, you are Force sensitive. This planet is primitive and situated within the unknown regions, I believe. A Force sensitive is one with a connection to the Force. I do not have enough time to explain this if you are not aware, but I do suggest you look on one of the other holocrons. This is Jedi Master Sam Sarek. May this help whoever finds this." As the recording stopped, Midoriya looked dumbfounded and slack-jawed. He had never seen technology like this. As Midoriya, less afraid, decided to check the rest of this ship. It had been buried somewhat, probably crashed, according to what that holocron thing said. As he checked it, as he found other holocrons, they were in chests. And he had found other skeletons, some wearing armor, and some were definitely not human. With him checking out a creature with a elongated neck and bones that he couldn't describe. Moreover, that man had said he was force sensitive. Midoriya didn't know what this meant. He did think about getting the police, getting other people, but then he thought. He remembered watching a show where aliens arrived, and the government just swept it all up. Midoriya would never get to know what that man meant. As Midoriya decided he would investigate more. Much of his strong emotion he had suffered earlier had somewhat abated. The next day he arrived with a shovel and buried the dead. Well, buried's a strong word. What Midoriya did was shallow graves at best. And it took him several days. As Midoriya would bring a notebook, jotting down everything, as he pulled out another holocron and activated it. We flash forward almost 7 full years, as we see Midoriya's teacher throwing papers in the air saying, "I know you all want to be on the hero track." As the class wound up activating their quirks, Midoriya just not doing anything, and Bakugo going on his normal speech of, the best most of these kids can do is just become sidekicks for some C-lister. As he got on his desk, Midoriya feeling like he should try to do something to take down Bakugo's aggression a peg, would put his hand under his desk and concentrate. He would just scoot the desk a little, causing Bakugo to stumble down and fall. Bakugo would be flustered and angry, but he knew no one in here had a telekinesis quirk, as Midoriya had kept it a secret about this force sensitivity. But back to the current events, Bakugo would somewhat recover and say, "After all, I'm going to UA." Midoriya sighing at the fact that he's somehow still just as cocky. As the teacher said, "Midoriya, weren't you planning on going to UA too?" As the entire class got silent, Midoriya would immediately think, "Crap." As Bakugo was about to get into his face, as the teacher said, "Bakugo, calm down. Take a seat. Or you're getting detention. And trust me, neither of us want to hear your mother yelling at you again." Bakugo immediately froze at the mention of his mother and sat down. After class, Bakugo would blow up Midoriya's notebook and throw out the window. Midoriya, thinking fast, would silently prevent it from falling. As Bakugo got in his face, saying, "Are you trying to upstage me, nerd?" Midoriya, waving his hands, would say, "No, I'm not trying to. I didn't even realize you were still planning on going to UA." As he moved his hands in a relatively circle gesture, as Bakugo said, "If I catch you trying to do that, I'm just gonna blow you up." As he left with his cronies, Midoriya sighing, thinking how it was a good idea he had been practicing so much. As he brought his book back into the room, as he opened up his backpack, a holocron being in there. Midoriya started to think, it's been 7 years since I found that ship. And from the holocrons, my basic training is almost complete. Just one more big thing to do, and then I should move on to the more advanced stuff. As Midoriya thought about the weapons that he had found, primarily the one the holocron referred to as the lightsaber, in that it was one of the crucial things for a Jedi to have. Of course, he had practiced with the other lightsabers on training mode, but that was nothing compared to building his own, and having to go through any of the archives he has recovered on the ship to find out if you can make a lightsaber that just stuns somebody. After all, he can't just go around cutting off people's limbs. As he began to walk home, he would start to think to himself, I'm not even going to UA with... No. Fear and doubt's the enemies of a Jedi. I shouldn't let those thoughts in. After all, what's the difference between my abilities and a quirk? Even though I can do, 5 different things, and from some of the holocrons, I could do a lot more crazy things. But hey, I could probably just hide my quirk like All Might. Then I can just make people guess. As he began trailing off in this thought process, some of which being, does he want to go to UA, or does he want to try to go somewhere a little less notable? That way he can draw less attention. Perhaps he should just wait and become a hero once he's a legal adult and can take a test to see if he's capable of having a provisional hero's license. Or, as he sensed something stopping, as the sewer grate behind him rushed open with a sludge man coming out, saying, Sorry, kid. I'm gonna have to try to take your body. Midoriya would pause for 1 second to register. Is this guy just really creepy, or does this guy's slime power literally have the ability to possess people? Shaking his head, he would immediately force push him away. The sludge monster coming into a invisible bubble that then pushed him back, saying, Ugh, kid, I see you can use your quirk rather well. As Midoriya charged another attack in one of his hands, as he thought to himself that this was called Judgment, as green lightning formed, but before he could release it, All Might would appear, throwing a punch. Midoriya would think for a second, wow, so cool, and the other second, his minor precognition kicked in, telling him that All Might didn't see him, as he quickly jumped out of the way. And a second later, a massive wave of air would slam into the sludge villain, and right where Midoriya was standing a second ago. Midoriya would be glad that he had honed his force powers, even if it meant that little ball shooting at him for hours. As All Might would say, Are you one of this villain's compatriots? Midoriya, shaking his head vigorously, said, No, I am just a civilian. No villain here. As All Might would say, Glad to hear it. All Might would wind up gathering the sludge villain in bottles somehow, as Midoriya would simply ask if he needed any extra help. As All Might would say, no, and that he really has to get going. He would sign Midoriya's notebook and jump away. A few minutes later, Midoriya would be walking home, as he would see an explosion in the distance. As he went to investigate, it would be the sludge villain who, like normal, would have escaped from All Might's pocket. Seriously, he kept a villain with a sludge quirk in soda bottles. As Midoriya thought, crap, as he then checked what heroes came to stop it. And furrowed. Well, and grew concerned. Almost all the heroes were either too busy dealing with civilians, rescue from fire, or couldn't do anything to the sludge villain. As he then realized that Bakugo was the sludge villain's hostage. The sludge villain wrapping around Bakugo, clearly trying to do the same thing he had tried doing to Midoriya. But Midoriya had the ability to push him back. Midoriya would take a second to breathe in and out, as he said, well, time to save him. As Midoriya rushed towards the sludge villain, the pro hero saying, "Kid, stop!" As Midoriya, using his latent abilities, would manage to dodge the sludge villain's attack, throw his backpack at him for a distraction, and immediately Hand would rush up in there, grabbing at the sludge villain, and immediately using all of the power he could muster to force the sludge villain back. The sludge villain would howl as Midoriya's solemn judgment would hit him. For a quick timeout, for those who do not know, this is a weaker version of Sith Lightning used by Palpatine in the movies. It was invented by the Jedi, but stopped being used due to its similarity to Sith abilities. Now back to the what if. The sludge villain would howl, as Midoriya would then push with all of his might and push him back using the Force, managing to free Bakugo, as both of them just hit the sludge villain before running away. All Might would swing in, saving the sludge villain. Midoriya would get lectured, and on his way home, Bakugo would tell him that Bakugo would say, don't think this means you're better than me. Bakugo would stomp away. A second later, a man would come around the corner. He was scrawny with blonde hair, and he would say, "Excuse me. Hello. I work with All Might." As Midoriya would think, wow, and he would decide to extend his senses, as he sensed that this man seemed a lot like All Might. He had been so excited before, he hadn't really had a good sense of All Might within the Force, but he knew this man's sense felt familiar. As the man would say, "My name is Toshinori Yagi. And All Might would want to know if you would be interested in some training." As Midoriya would think, "Really?" As All Might said, yes. Some training with All Might. And myself, when All Might's not able to. Midoriya would say, "Yes, that would be wonderful." As All Might said, "And what do you call your quirk?" As Midoriya rubbed the back of his head, "I actually, just woken my quirk like a day or two ago. It doesn't have a name yet. In fact, I'm gonna be filling out the paperwork this week." As Midoriya thought, man, I hate lying, but I hadn't put it in. As Toshinori's jaw would almost drop. You're that good. As Midoriya could sense that he didn't fully believe him on the amount of time he's had access to his quirk. As Toshinori would say, "Here's my business card. You don't have to decide right now, and you can think about it." As Midoriya would say, "Yeah, I'll probably contact you within the next week." As Midoriya would go home and activate a holocron. This one describing how to construct your lightsaber. And that's where I'm going to leave it for right now. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Any other ideas for it For this what if, I mostly have it thought out somewhat, but not to its full extent. So if anyone's got any interesting ideas, please put them in the comments. It does help the channel for both story-wise. After all, I am making this for both me and the viewers. And make sure to subscribe if you find this interesting. And leave a like. Either of those help the channel. And this will be the Spell Reap, signing off.